Hi, this is Jovan Arat, and in this video I will going to give you an insight about the Data Privacy Act of 2012. While we were discussing about the Data Privacy Act of 2012, have these questions in mind. First, why it is important to protect our personal data? Second, what are the consequences if someone violates the said act? And third, by knowing the importance to protect our personal data, what immediate actions or changes you should do in handling your personal data. Bilang pagsisimula, the Data Privacy Act of 2012 is also called the Republic Act number 10173, or an act protecting individual personal information in information and communication system in the government and the private sector, creating for this purpose a National Privacy Commission and for other purposes. Ngayon, bakit ba mahalaga na protektahan natin ang ating mga personal sensitive informations? Ang isa sa mga dahilan, mga kaibigan, ay it can be used by someone to do criminal acts. Totoo po yun. Kung hindi tayo mag-iingat sa ating mga personal data, ay maaari itong gamitin sa nauuso ngayon ng mga halimbawa, identity theft or online phishing. Halimbawa, for example po, according to a report by GMA News Online, a public school teacher is in debt. Nagkautang siya because of identity theft. Opo. He began receiving notifications from 3 banks that he borrowed a total of 800,000 pesos in salary loans. Pero ang sabi niya, hindi naman doon siya nag-borrow o umutang, nag-loan sa kahit saan mang bangko. Pero lumalabas po sa investigation na na-post niya pala yung PRC ID niya online. At yung PRC ID, tatandaan natin, it is a personal sensitive information. So, it is highly possible na yun yung ginamit ng identity theft to do a certain criminal act without the knowledge of the owner of that data. Opo, kaya po, napakadelikado pala kapag hindi natin alam yung mga risk at yung hindi natin alam kung ano yung magiging resulta if we don't protect our personal data. Kaya po, mahalaga talaga na pag-aralan ang Data Privacy Act because it helps us to be aware and conscious in handling our personal data. Under the Declaration of Policy, the DPA of 2012 recognized our rights to privacy, and it ensures that our communications are free-flowing. And the state also recognizes the vital role of information and communications technology in nation building. Kaya po, makatwiran lamang na ang lahat po ng ito, lahat po ng information ay under in the state's protection. Ngayon po, gaano ba kalawak ang saklaw o scope ng Data Privacy Act? Bilang sagot, this act is applied in all processing of all types of personal information. At sino-sino naman yung mga cover? According to this act, it includes natural, means an individual, pareho natin, or a juridical, meaning referring to organizations. It's either government or private, involved in data personal processing. Pero baka may magtanong po, mayroon po bang mga pagkakataon na ang Data Privacy Act ay hindi maaring i-apply? The answer po is yes. There are certain instances that this act cannot be applied. For example, first, this cannot be applied when information processed for purpose of allowing public access to information that fall within matters of public concerns. So, if the information somehow touch public concern, kinakailangan po talaga na ang publiko ay may access sa information na yun. Transparency per se, ika nga. Ang isa po sa mga halimbawa nito, mga kaibigan, is information about any individual or person who is or was an officer or employee of the government that relates to his or her position or function. So, hindi pala sakop ng act na ito, ng Data Privacy Act, ang mga informations ng isang government employee na dapat malaman ng public. For example, according to the official gazette.gov.ph, public officials are required to file an oath of their salens. Salens means states of assets, liabilities, and net worth. This also includes a waiver authorizing the ombudsman or his representatives to attain those documents. So, kinakailangan kung public official ka, kinakailangan na magbigay ka ng SALN. Ayun. Another example po is information about any individual who is or was performing a service under contract for a government institutions. Another example is informations relating to a benefit of a financial nature conferred to an individual upon discretion of the government. Ano po yun? One of the example po nito ay yung mga bank accounts na pinapublish ng isang individual or institution for a benefit of a certain people, like fundraising or reach out program, no? Tulad po ng ating makikita sa screen. Ayan po. It is one of the example of it. Kung mapapansin po ninyo, nakapublish yung account name at account number as a notice for the public. Baka kasi mayroong mag-donate. So, yun, ganun po. Yung may example mga kaibigan ng mga information na dapat malaman ng publiko at yung mga information na yun ay hindi saklaw ng Data Privacy Act. Another example po na hindi saklaw ng Data Privacy Act ay ang for journalistic, artistic, or literary purposes in order to uphold freedom of speech, of expression, or of the press. Opo. Hindi naman po ibig sabihin na journalist ka or artist ka or gumagawa ka ng literature. Hindi naman ibig sabihin nun na basta-basta ka na lang gagamit ng sensitive information ng iba o ng ibang tao. There's always an extent na that you are allowed to share about the information of a certain person. Opo, it always depend on the data subject matter. Kung papayag ba siya at alam niya ba to the best of his or her knowledge kung ano ang information na isi-share mo at kung saan mo ito gagamitin. So, depende pa rin sa data subject. Pangatlo is for research purposes intended for a public benefit. Halimbawa po yung mga thesis po natin, mga survey na ginagawa, yun, yung mga information na yun ay maaring hindi nasaklaw ng Data Privacy Act. Also, those information necessary in order to carry out the functions of a public authority in accordance with a constitutionally or statutorily mandated function pertaining to law enforcement or regulatory function. For example po, the government published guidelines in a form of a poster, guidelines that promotes awareness for the public, just like a poster of DTI where customers can read their rights as a consumer. So, yun po yung mga information na hindi rin saklaw ng Data Privacy Act. Also, kasali rin po yung mga information necessary for banks, other financial institutions under BSP to comply with RA 9510 and RA 9160. Siyempre po, kapag kukuha tayo ng bank account sa mga bangko, they will always ask for your personal information. At hindi ka maaaring magreklamo na hindi ko ibibigay yung mga information ko kasi under ito ng Data Privacy Act. Pero hindi po yun sakop ng Data Privacy Act, no? Mga information na kinakailangan mong ibigay sa bangko. At bilang panghuli po, lastly, personal informations originally collected from residents of a foreign jurisdiction in accordance with the laws of those foreign jurisdictions which is being processed in the Philippines. Halimbawa po, if there is a foreigner visiting our country, kailangan niyang sabihin kung ano yung present status niya sa bansang pinanggalingan niya. Halimbawa, if that person has a pending case in his country and he bailed, at yung country naman niya ay pinapayagang makapag-travel siya, kailangan pa rin niyang ipaalam yun bago siya makapasok sa bansa. Ngayon, dumako naman po tayo sa mga definition of terms na ginagamit sa act na ito, sa Data Privacy Act. Ang una po ay ang data subject. Now, what is a data subject? A data subject refers to an individual whose personal information, sensitive personal information, or privileged information is being processed. Halimbawa po ako, all those informations na nakalagay sa PDS ko, PDS po meaning personal data sheet, are considered as sensitive personal information or somehow privileged information. Infos or informations that are something not to be shared or used for public viewing. The consent of the data subject.
Freely given, specific, informed indication of will.
Halimbawa po, pag tinanong natin ang isa kung okay lang sa kanya na i-share ang certain information tungkol sa, let's say, educational background niya, and then the person agrees and said yes, so okay yon. Kasi sumang-ayon siya, syempre with his or her full knowledge kung anong specific information ang ibabahagi mo at kung saan mo ito gagamitin. Agrees to the collection and processing of personal information about and or relating to him or her. So, ang keyword po dito, mga kaibigan, is the word agrees. Opo, or binigyan niya tayo ng consent o sumang-ayon siya. Ang isa na i-share yung information niya or informations na may connection sa kanya. Most people ngayon is guilty of this law. Bakit? Kasi especially yung hindi aware sa act na ito, no? Madalas natin itong nakikita sa mga social media, Facebook, Instagram. For example, a person get a screenshot of a phone conversation with another person, no? Maybe galit siya sa person na iyon, then he or she posts it in a social media, yung conversation nila, without the knowledge or permission of that person involved. It is already a violation of the Data Privacy Act. Under rin sa consent of the data subject, the evidence by written, electronic, or recorded. So, ito yung mga example na when the court asks sensitive information para maging part ng evidence for a case to be solved, or you are consenting an authorized person to have your personal information na sila yung mag-process sa mga ito, or kinukonsent mo sila na makita ito. Under pa rin sa consent of the data subject, if the information is given on behalf of the data subject by an agent specifically authorized by the data subject to do so. Halimbawa po, nag-apply ka sa isang trabaho sa isang company, syempre ibinigay mo yung mga PDS mo, mga credentials mo, mga personal sensitive information mo sa HR. So, ang HR ngayon yung agent na siya yung authorized na hahawak sa mga personal information mo. So, he has the consent from you. Now, the Personal Information Controller or the PIC. The PIC refers to a person or organization who controls the collection, holding, processing, or use of personal information, including a person or organization, the one who instructs another to collect, hold, process, use, transfer, or disclose personal data on its behalf. So, in other words po, yung personal information controller pala is the custody sa mga informations na ipinagkatiwala sa kanya. Siya yung humahawak ng mga information na iyon na ipinagkatiwala sa kanya. At dahil nga po ipinagkatiwala iyon ng data subject sa kanya, dapat nga iyon nga pakaingatan, no? Hindi niya iyon basta-basta na ibinibigay sa ibang tao. Another important term mga kaibigan na itong personal information processor. Ano ba itong personal information processor?
The Personal Information Processor po or the PIP is refers to any natural or juridical person or anybody to whom a personal information controller may outsource or instruct the processing of personal data pertaining to a data subject. So, ibig sabihin po, itong PIP or the Personal Information Processor, ito yung ini-instructionan pala ng PIC or the Personal Information Controller to somehow relay or share to a certain extent ang isang personal data or personal information of a certain subject matter. Ibig sabihin, itong PIP, authorized rin siya or isa siyang agent that is authorized to share datas. The next one is the privileged information. Privileged informations refers to any and all forms of data which under the rules of court and other pertinent laws constitute privileged communication. Yun, ano-ano ba ang mga halimbawa ng mga privileged informations? Halimbawa po, yung mga informations na na-share ng isang client sa kanyang lawyer. Yung lahat ng mga information na iyon ay close lang sa kanilang dalawa. Walang makakaalam na iba. Another example is the physician-patient relationship. Ibig sabihin po, any result of a consultation ng isang patient sa physician, it should not be published. Yun po, hindi maaring kunin na lang yun ng sino man na halimbawa, Doc, maari po bang kunin yung result ng test ni Jovan? Hindi po maaring ibigay ng doktor yon kasi that is a privileged information between me as a patient and to the physician. At ang isa pang example itong minister or priest confessor relationship. Halimbawa, ang isang Christian ay nag-confess ng umpisal sa isang ministro or pare na hindi dapat isiwalat ng pare or ministro yung kasalanan ng isa sa publiko kasi mapapahiya yung confessor. So, yun po yung example. Another important term po is the sensitive personal information. Ngayon, what is sensitive personal information and what does it comprise? It is important to know or to be aware of this information for us to be conscious in sharing information of another person or another agency. No? May apat na binabanggit dito. Una, about an individual's race, ethnic origin, marital status, age, color, and religious, philosophical, or political affiliation. Tungkol sa mga ethnic group, mga ethnic linguistic groups natin, sila yung palaging subject ng mga katatawanan na hindi napapansin ng iba, nasasagasaan na pala nila yung karapatan ng iba. So, kung mapapansin natin, marami ang guilty sa mga bagay na ito kasi hindi sila aware na sensitive personal information pala yun na nasasabi nila. Yun. Number 2, about an individual's health, education, genetic, or sexual life of a person, or to any proceeding for any offense committed or alleged to have been committed by such person, the disposal of such proceedings, or the sentence of any court in such proceedings. Ayun po. Pangatlo, issued by government agencies peculiar to an individual which includes but not limited to
social security numbers, reviews or current health records, licenses, or its denials, suspensions, or revocation, and tax returns.
So, kasali pala sa sensitive personal information yung mga government issued IDs, no? Katulad ng binanggit ko kanina na PRC ID, no, na ginamit ng identity theft para nakawan yung public teacher. So, importante na ma-secure natin yung mga personal information na ito.
And yung pang-apat, specifically established by an executive order or an act of Congress to be kept classified.
So, ayun po yung mga examples po ng mga sensitive personal informations na mga dapat pakakaingatan natin.